in this video we will be discussing about the processing defects and microbiology associated with fermented alcoholic beverages. Welcome to Food Enemy. Now, to start the topic of fermented alcoholic beverages, we must first know that this topic is again a very important topic under the section of food microbiology, and generally the questions which are asked from this particular topic generally includes the identification of the particular step from the process of the alcoholic beverage. Apart from it, the different kind of defects associated with the microbial spoilage of alcoholic beverages are also being asked. Now, talking about the alcoholic beverages, the very first question is that how alcohol is being produced from a particular food product. So for this question, we must go back to the concept we have studied in our schools, that is glycolysis. So glycolysis is nothing but the process where the glucose is being converted into pyruvate by a number of enzymes. So once the glucose is being converted into pyruvate by different type of enzymes, this pyruvate further undergoes two different processes, which is lactic acid fermentation, where the final product is lactic acid, and other is alcoholic fermentation, where the final product is alcohol. So in case of alcoholic fermentation, the pyruvate is thereafter converted into acetaldehyde by the action of an enzyme called as pyruvate decarboxylase, and certain amount of carbon dioxide is also being released. This acetaldehyde is then further converted into alcohol or ethanol by the action of alcohol dehydrogenase. So this process where the sugar is being converted into alcohol is called as alcoholic fermentation. Now, apart from the different kind of enzymes associated in this process, certain microorganisms are also responsible for alcoholic fermentation, which we very well know is the brewer's yeast or Saccharomyces cerevisiae. Now, the nutritional value or the calorific value of alcohol is generally 7 kcal per gram or 29 kilojoule per gram, which is actually very high. Now, talking about the classification of alcoholic beverages, there are three different types of alcoholic beverages. The first is wine, which is actually the fermentation of fruit juices. The second is malted beverages, where the cereal grains are being fermented. For example, beer is a kind of malted beverage. The third is distilled liquids. Distilled liquids are actually the byproduct or the liquids or the beverages which are being produced by the above two beverages which are being distilled. So this is distilled liquid. Now, coming to the very first kind of alcoholic beverage, we have beer, and beer, as we discussed, is a type of malted beverage. So as we discussed, in malted beverage, a cereal is being fermented. So in case of beer, the cereal is actually barley grains. Now, talking about the main ingredients associated with beer, the first ingredient is malt. Malt is actually the germinated or dried barley grain in which the germs and sprouts are also being removed. Apart from it, the second important ingredient is hops. Hops are again a very important ingredient, which are generally the dried flowers of a hop plant. The importance of this hop is that apart from giving a particular flavor and aroma to the beer, it is also responsible for giving the protein content and the sugar to the beer. The third very important ingredient of beer is malt adjunct. Malt adjunct is generally the starch or sugar containing materials added in addition to carbohydrates in malt. So these malt adjunct can be starch based material or sugar based material. Sugar based material generally include sugars or liquid syrup, while starch-based material generally includes the unmalted cereals. Unmalted cereals that are not being germinated or dried, or nothing has been done to the cereals. The cereals generally includes wheat, corn, rice, generally in form of wholemeal or grits, flakes or flours. Now, once we know about the raw material of the beer, we can now proceed to the processing of the beer, which is also called as brewing of beer. So, the very first step of brewing of beer is malting, which is actually the preparation of malt. So, as we have also discussed, that malt is generally the germinated and dried barley grains in which the germs and the sprouts are being removed. So in this process, we have to process our malt, we have to germinate it, and we have to dry it. So for germinating, what we have to do, we have to soak it. So the barley grains are first soaked or steeped at a particular temperature, which is 10 to 15.6 degrees Celsius, and then we have to germinate it at 16 to 21 degrees Celsius, and generally the germination take place of around 5 to 7 days. So after germination we have to dry it. So drying is being basically done by nil drying. So after nil drying we have to remove the sprouts and the germs. Now after the germs and sprouts are being removed, we finally get malt. So malt is a very rich source of amylases and proteinases. Now before using this malt as such, we have to first crush it. So once we get the malt, the second process is mashing. So mashing, why mashing is required? Mashing is basically required to solubilize the malt or the malt adjuncts which are being added in the further process, and this mashing is also done to hydrolyze the starches and the polysaccharides plus the proteins present in the malt. So in mashing, the malt which we have got from this process is now mixed with water, and this mixing is done at a temperature of 38 to 50 degrees Celsius. Then the malt agents are being added. Now we must note here the malt agents are not added as such, but they are being pre-cooked first. So the cooked malt agents are being added, and the temperature of these malt agents are generally 100 degrees Celsius. So the overall temperature of the mix of water and the malt extract and the cooked malt agents, the overall temperature become around 65 to 70 degrees Celsius. Now we have to further increase the temperature to 75 degrees Celsius in order to inactivate the enzymes present in the mixture. Now once we have reached this particular temperature, then the next step is filtration. Now since filtration is generally done in a separate tank which is also called as lauter, the liquid which we got after the filtration is called as wort, and because we are using a separate tank, the wort is also sometimes known as lauter wort. Now after we got the wort, the next step is addition of hops. Now once hops are added to the wort, the next step is boiling of wort with hops. Now boiling is generally done for 2.5 hours, and after the boiling is done, we have to filter the mixture, and the mixture we are obtained is having certain portion of hops together in the wort, and this wort is then subjected to fermentation. Now we must focus on why we are doing boiling. So the very first reason for doing boiling is to concentrate the wort. The second is, since we are boiling our extract, we are actually sterilizing it. Now next we are inactivating the enzymes because we are giving a higher temperature. Now to extract the soluble substances from the hops is again, it is a very important reason why we are doing boiling. Now after it, to coagulate and to precipitate the proteins, as we have already discussed that the reason we are adding hops is to extract the protein portion from the hops, and lastly to contribute to the antiseptic substances to wort and beer. Now apart from proteins, hops are also incorporating their antiseptic properties to the wort, and these antiseptic substances are chiefly the alpha resins which are present in hops, and these alpha resins are very much effective against the gram-positive bacteria. Now once the boiling of the wort together with hops is done, the next step is fermentation. Now the most important thing in fermentation is the yeast. Now depending on the type of yeast, the type of fermentation also varies. So fermentation can be of two different types, which is top fermentation and bottom fermentation. The top fermentation name itself suggests that in this fermentation the yeast is being added from the top of a fermentation vat with the help of the rapid carbon dioxide, and in bottom fermentation the yeast is being allowed to grow and settle at the bottom of the fermentation vat. Now as I have told you, the type of yeast is again different in the different type of fermentation. In top fermentation the yeast is Saccharomyces cerevisiae, while in case of bottom fermentation the yeast is Saccharomyces scalanceus. The type of malted beverages which are being obtained by bottom fermentation generally includes beer and lager beer, and in case of top fermentation the malted beverages generally include ale and porter. Now since we are talking about beer, which is which bottle fermentation is done, the type of yeast is Saccharomyces scalangenesis. Now we are inoculating our wort with this yeast, and the process of inoculating the yeast with wort is actually called as pitching. Now we must note here that the temperature of the wort at the time of fermentation must be in a range of 3.3 to 14 degrees Celsius. So once fermentation is allowed, then the sugars are being converted into alcohol together with certain amount of carbon dioxide and small amount of glycerol and acetic acid. Apart from sugars which are being converted into alcohol, the proteins and the fat derivatives which are present in the wort are being converted into small amount of higher alcohols and acid. Now these alcohols and the organic acid together are responsible for the production of aromatic esters, which are responsible for giving a particular aroma to the beer. Now after the fermentation, once the wort and the sugars present in the wort are being converted into alcohol, the next step is the aging or the maturation. In the process of aging or maturity, the beer is then stored, or what we can say lagered, in vats at a temperature of 0 degrees Celsius for several weeks and months, and this storing generally leads to the precipitation of proteins, the yeast, the raisins and other undesirable substances, and generally result in a clear and mellow, or what we can say a mature beer. Now this beer is then led for the finishing. In finishing, the beer is being carbonated, and the carbonation is done to obtain a carbon content of about 0.45 to 0.52%. Then this carbonated beer is being cooled and clarified and then packaged in the bottles. Now the final alcohol content of this beer should be about 3.8% by weight. Now let us revise the whole process of brewing or the manufacturing of beer. So the very first step was steeping, where the barley together with water was steeped, and then it was allowed to germinate for 5 to 7 days, and after it was dried, where the germs and the sprouts were also removed. The malt obtained was then crushed and it was mashed together with the presence of water, and this mashed malt and water extract was then filtered, or what we can say it was done, lautering was done, and the final product we obtained was the lauter wort, and this lauter wort was added together with the hops, and this wort and hops were then boiled for 2.5 hours. And after it, the boiling extract was then clarified or filtered. And the filtered mixture was then cooled and held for fermentation, and after fermentation it was allowed to age, and after aging, which was done for several months and weeks, after doing the finishing to the aged beer, it was packaged, and what we got was the final beer. Now once we have studied the processing or the brewing of beer, we can now understand the microbiology associated with beer. Now talking about the process of boiling the wort and the hops, we can see that the boiling is giving a temperature high enough to kill most of the microorganism which can alter the mechanism or the flavor of the beer. Secondly, coming to the next stage, which is aging. In aging or maturity, the beer is subjected to a very low temperature of 0 degrees Celsius, again inhibiting most of the microorganism to grow. Then again, the pH of the wort is very low, around 3.5 to 4.7. Again inhibiting the growth of most of the microorganism, and the final product of the processing is beer, or which is alcohol. So alcohol itself is a microorganism inhibiting substance. Apart from it, the mixture of wort together with hop have certain antiseptic properties, so they are again giving certain inhibiting effect to microorganism growth. So we can say that overall the microbial growth is being limited, but there are again certain chances of growth which can occur in beer. So such kind of defects are also called as beer defects. So talking about the beer defects, the first defect is turbidity, which can occur due to the undesirable proteins or the protein tannin complexes which may occur, and together with starch and resins, which together can form turbidity in the beer. Apart from it, off flavor can also result. due to the selection of poor ingredients, or when the beer come in contact, or the ingredients when come in contact with the metal can also result in off flavor. Now talking about the beer infection or beer diseases which may be happen due to the microbial growth are also there. So the first infection is or the first kind of disease associated with beer is off flavor, which may occur due to the butyric acid fermentation or lactic acid fermentation on the malt by the organism such as Clostridium or Lactis. Now cloudiness and bitterness can also occur due to certain microorganisms. For example, wild yeast. Wild yeast, the species is Saccharomyces pestroiens. So this species is also responsible for causing the cloudiness or bitterness. Now the third kind of infection can be ester-like flavor or taste, which is generally associated with a certain species of microorganism. Now talking about the bacterial or beer diseases due to bacteria or the bacterial defects, the first one is Sarcenia sickness, which is nothing but the turbidity and the ropiness in beer, which is generally caused by a particular species of microorganism, Pediococcus cerevisiae. And the other kind of bacterial defect in beer is sourness of wort, which is generally caused by the species of Acetobacter and Gluconobacter, which in themselves are acid and antiseptic tolerant. So that's why they result in the sourness of the wort. Now talking about the other malted beverages than beer, the first one is ale. Ale is generally have higher content of hop, and and therefore it also has a higher alcohol content. Now next is porter. Porter is generally a heavier and a darker beer, and it is darker because the malt is generally is dried for a very longer time. It is roasted and caramelized. That's why the color is very dark, and also the hop content is very less in case of porter. Now next is stout. Stout is again a kind of beer which is similar to porter. The only difference is that it is much more heavier and darker, and even it is the darkest beer among all. And the last is sake, which is actually a Japanese beer which is made from rice instead of barley. So this was all about the processing defects and microbiology associated with beer. Now coming to the next alcoholic beverage, it is wine. Now as we discussed, wine, it is generally produced by fermentation of fruit juices or the juices from the fruits, generally of fruits and berries. Now the most commonly used wine is grape wine, and grape wine is of two types, red wine and white wine. In case of red wine, fermentation of juice is done with skin, and since the skin contains the pigments, the final wine has a color to it, while in case of white wine, the skin, which obviously have the pigments, is being removed. That's why the color of the wine is white or colorless. Now talking about the processing of wine, the very first step of processing of wine is the preparation of juice. Now while preparing the juice, first of all the wine specific grape variety is harvested, and it is being harvested at that particular stage where the sugar content is desirable, and the sugar content must be in the range of 15 to 25%. And once we have harvested the particular grape variety, the grapes are stemmed and crushed, and the process of crushing of the grapes, or the final product we have obtained after the crushing of the grapes, is called as must. Now this must is generally treated with sulfur dioxide or with potassium metabisulfite so as to inhibit the undesirable competitors other than the yeast. Now the second process of wine is fermentation. In case of fermentation of wine, the particular variety of yeast is Saccharomyces cerevisiae variety ellipsoideus, and it is added to the crushed grapes, or what we call must, and it is held for fermentation for about 7 to 14 days. Now once the yeast is added to the must, the fermentation start, and after the inoculation of yeast to the must for 7 to 14 days, generally the contents of the tanks, that is the yeast together with the must, is mixed twice a day regularly, because this mixing will help to encourage the growth of the yeast, and this mixing will also help in the extraction of color from the skin. Now, the extraction of color can also be done in an alternate method where the skin can be heated and the pigment can be extracted, and the extracted pigment can thereafter be added to the juice separately. So an alternate method can also be done. So after this mixing, after few days, this mixing is discontinued and an anaerobic conditions are allowed to maintain, because the anaerobic conditions allow the fermentation. Now, the optimal temperature range for fermentation should be followed and should be maintained, because if the temperature goes too low, it will slow the action of yeast and it will permit the growth of other competitive organisms, for example lactic acid bacteria or the wild yeast. And again, if the optimal temperature is very high, then it will again inhibit the growth of the vine yeast and it will again permit the growth of other competitive organism. So that's why an optimal temperature range should be maintained, which is 24 to 27 degrees Celsius in case of red wine and 10 to 21 degrees Celsius in case of white wine. So after the fermentation is done, the fermented juice is drawn off and it is stored in storage tanks under light pressure of carbon dioxide at a temperature of 21 to 29 degrees Celsius, again for 7 to 11 days. And this particular condition is actually called as the secondary fermentation. And secondary fermentation is done so as to again ferment any leftover sugars which are being left. So secondary fermentation is done, and after the secondary fermentation, the clear wine is drawn off, or what we say is ragged. That is, the clear wine is being again transferred to another storage tank so that all the contents get mixed properly. Now, once the clear wine is being drawn off, the next step is storing and aging of the wine, where the clear wine is then allowed to cool and held for few days as such, and then so that it is held as such so that all the sediments and undesirable things get sediment at the bottom, and then it is being filtered and transferred to wooden tanks, and these wooden tanks are generally completely sealed in order to prevent any addition of oxygen, and then the tanks are led for aging. But periodically the wine is racked so that all the sediments at the bottom can be mixed eventually very nicely to the tank, and then the wine is allowed to age for months and years so that all the desirable changes in the flavor and the body of the wine can be obtained. And once the aging is done, the final filtration and clarification is done, and the pasteurization can be done before the bottling or after the bottling. And once the bottling is done, the final wine is being obtained, and the final alcohol content of the wine is generally 6 to 9% by weight and 8 to 13% by volume. And another very important factor associated with wine is the volatile acid content, because the higher volatile acid content is generally associated with faulty fermentation in case of wine. That's why a particular limit should be maintained in case of volatile acid content, which is 0.14 gram per 100 ml of acetic acid in red wine, while in case of white wine it should be 0.12 gram per 100 ml of acetic acid. Now, talking about the microbiology associated with the processing of wine, in the very first step we have noticed that the grapes were crushed, and in this step because of the crushing, the grapes are being allowed for a number of microorganisms to grow. But since we were adding the sulfur dioxide and potassium bisulfite, they were inhibiting the microbial growth. The next step were the primary fermentation. Now, in case of primary fermentation, the wine yeast predominates, inhibiting any other microorganism to grow. Then in the secondary fermentation, because of the carbon dioxide was evolving, it was again inhibiting any other microorganism growth. And then after aging, pasteurization was done. So again, high temperature was inhibiting any other competitive microorganisms to grow. So we can say that overall the other competitor microorganisms were totally inhibited. Now, before studying about the defects in the wine, we must also first know about the different type of wines available. So the First type of wine is still wine, and the name itself suggests that it is still. That means it do not retain any carbon dioxide and it is still in nature. On the other hand, sparkling wine, they retain carbon dioxide and have a kind of sparkle in them. The next wine is dry wine. Dry wine are those wines which contain little or no sugar at all, which can be fermented any further. While in case of sweet wine, they have added sugar or they have the sugars which have not been properly fermented. So this was all about the different types of wines. Now coming to the wine defects and the microbial spoilage associated with wine, the first kind of spoilage is spoilage by aerobic microorganism. So in this case, film yeast generally grows on the surface of wine exposed to air and cause a heavy pellicle, which is generally called as wine flowers and which is not at all desirable in case of wines. Apart from it, aerobic acetic acid bacteria such as Acetobacter and Gluconobacter, certain species of these two acetic acid bacteria undergoes the process of acidification and cause a sweet sour taste to the must, which is again not at all required in the case of wine. Another kind of spoilage associated with wine is spoilage by facultative microorganism, wherein the heterofermentative lactobacillus species form acid from the sugars, producing a silky cloudiness, and this particular kind of spoilage is also called as Thorne spoilage. Apart from it, certain species of leuconostoc are also responsible for causing sliminess or ropiness together with cloudiness and high volatile acidity, which we just now studied in case of younger wines. So which is again not at all required in case of wine. So this was all about the defects associated with the wines. Now coming to the next alcoholic beverages, we have distilled liquors. Now distilled liquors, the name themselves suggests they are produced by the distillation of alcohols produced from fermentation. Now since we are doing distillation of the alcohol is getting concentrate. So in case of distilled liquors, the alcohol get concentrated, and since the alcohol is getting concentrate, the alcohol content also get high. So in case of distilled liquors, the alcohol content is generally 40%. Now talking about the different types of alcoholic distilled liquors, the first one is whiskey, which is produced from the distillation of cereal grains; brandy, which is produced from the distillation of wine; rum from molasses distillation, and gin from juniper berries. Apart from it, a number of other distilled liquors are also there, depending upon the different types of raw material used and varying from different state to state. So this was all about the different processing, the microbial spoilage and defects associated with different types of alcoholic fermented beverages. Thank you for watching this video. Please like, share and subscribe to our channel, and if you have any doubts, please comment below.